up, guys? I'm back from my journey. It was crazy. I got back like a few months ago, and it's just taken me quite a while to reintegrate myself into society after all the stuff that happened. Um, there's so much that happened. Like, I don't even. I gotta make multiple videos about it. This one is just gonna be like a brief synopsis, I guess, of what happened, with a few details that were cool, that were like highlights of the journey, I guess. Um, but we started, or I started, and my guides with me started on 999 of last year. And I originally started because I was seeing these like vortexes of golden energy being emanated out of the earth. One was in Corpus Christi, Texas. The other one was in Peru, and the other one was Mount Kilimanjaro in East Africa. And yeah, I just decided to get up and go, and because these visions were so strong and the signals I was getting were so strong telling me to go on this journey. And I did, and I decided that I was gonna start making, or I was gonna make orgonite along the way, make these orgonite pyramids, and to kind of like assist in the purification of like the Earth's energies and stuff. And so yeah, I started in Fort Collins, and I drove down to Corpus Christi, Texas, in like 3 days. It was a hell of a drive. Then I dropped off a couple orgonite pyramids there, did some meditation. I met this being that I think I was meant to meet in Corpus Christi on the beach. Like, it was in the middle of my kundalini. I was doing kundalini on the beach, and then I could see this guy's aura, just like, this car rolled up, and this guy got out, and I could tell he wasn't conscious of who he was yet, but I could see how bright his aura was, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely supposed to like interact with him in some way, and be some sort of, give him some sort of download, and vice versa. But yeah, and then I left Corpus Christi and drove straight to LA, and did that in like another 3 days. But along the way, I had this abduction experience in Texas, where I was on this. I found this like plateau of rock, and I slept on it, and I ended up like falling asleep while meditating, and started seeing like myself rise up, like kind of like in a sleep paralysis type state, rising up from this rock outcropping. And I remember coming back, and I don't remember what happened on the other side. And it could have been like my actual body, to be honest, and the ETs just had me in some sort of like sleep paralysis type state or whatever. It was obviously not an abduction, really, like, oh, they came and abducted me against my will or whatever, because I did a CE5 and like invited them to come take me, or not come take me, but like interact with me in any way, and I was open to them like coming and taking me, so they did that, and it wasn't anything negative. It was probably just some sort of energy download and communication and stuff. So yeah, then I got to LA, and I made more orgonite pyramids, and I put them all around LA. And then I went up to Vancouver, put some more orgonite pyramids in Vancouver, and then I flew over to Tokyo. And when I left the United States, I was like, I'm gonna just go balls to the wall and go to Tokyo and put orgonite pyramids around the Fukushima reactor, because I know how much radiation's been spilling out of that for like the last 8 years, or maybe even more than that, like 10 years or something. So yeah, I ended up putting like 9, or like a total of like probably at least 15 orgonite pyramids in Japan, but probably like 9. I think it was 9 around the Fukushima reactor, and the closest 2 were within like 5 miles, which is pretty cool, of the like the actual reactor, where you're on the highway, and you're like driving through like toxic radiation. Like I don't even know how they have a highway going through there still. I was like, damn, I can get that close. Okay. And uh, yeah, I knew I had a faith that the ETs would protect me, and I wasn't worried about inhaling radiation or whatever. And yeah, I got that done, and I had these crazy dreams in Japan. That really stood out. I'll probably just make that a separate video. But yeah, then I left Japan and went to Vietnam, and I went to Ho Chi Minh City, and I dropped off a couple more orgonite pyramids. And oh my gosh, Southeast Asia needs them so bad. Like if you can imagine like how the highways were, or you've heard of how the highways were back in like the 60s, before, or like the 50s and 60s here in America, where there's just piles of trash everywhere. Well, that's like what Southeast Asia is. Or I mean, I was only in Vietnam, but that was the feeling that I got. Like they just throw all their trash into the rivers, and it just like floats out to sea, and that's like how it is. And I can only imagine in China, you know, and like Laos, Cambodia, and like all these places are probably, they're like developing countries, and they're in that stage like where America was before. And like, oh, there's so many people starving on the streets, so many, they're so skinny. And you walk in there with like $100 and you feel like a god, you know. Like it just it's kind of heart-wrenching, honestly, to see these kids on the street like that. But yeah, that's why we're doing this Organite thing, you know, and sending good vibes out to the world right now, because it's in need of healing for sure, and things need to change fast, you know. Yeah, we'll get stuff done though. We'll get it done. Yeah, and then I went to India afterwards, and so much crazy shit happened to me in India, like crazy stuff, like magic stuff. And I'll make a separate video about each, but I just wanted to give a rundown. And then I'm going to probably make a video about my reintegration and into society, and that's been like the hardest part. I mean, I went through some shit overseas, but like reintegrating myself here in this world, like nobody believes anything here. And like the energy that puts down on you, like after you go from such a high level of state of being and like manifesting things like that, you know, and like experiencing the limits of what this reality is, you know. It's like your mind controls the limits, you know. But then when you come back into a society and trying to reintegrate yourself into this 3D society that everybody lives in a fucking box, you know, it's really hard. And I learned a lot of lessons overseas, and even more so probably coming back here, that I think a lot of people would really benefit from on their journey and their journey upwards, the ascension. Like people, that was one thing that I do want to highlight, is that I think like everybody in this ascension process thinks that being in 5D is like, that's the limit, but I don't think that there is a limit. Like you decide your limit of like what dimension that you want to be in. And I think I'll get more into what I mean about that. But yeah, it's been crazy, and I hope you guys benefit from my experience. And like everybody says, it's very personal, and it is. And your ascension process will be completely different from mine, but also this could give you some insight and knowledge into some things that you won't, or you might not need to learn on your own, like I did, from after hearing my experience. So give me a like, guys. I'll be shortly back with those other videos like I was talking about. So, all right, bye, guys.